At Finecast, we're changing the way brands and viewers connect on TV by building an accurate picture of each household's location to enable advertisers to target viewers with relevant ads in their favorite TV content. Our latest integration with Media360 means FMCG brands can now target Sainsbury's shoppers to drive campaign KPIs from consideration through to ROI. That's the power of Finecast, making sure the right audience falls in love with your ad.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone, hope you're enjoying the day so far. I'm happy to be here on behalf of Finecast, if you liked the video. I'm going to kick off the first half of the session to talk you through what addressable TV is, its position in the market, and hopefully inspire you with some interesting use cases. I'm also joined by Thompson. She heads up a select group of clients at Wavemaker, and also Sander, who's representing from Perrigo. So they'll join us in the second half. And Perrigo is an over-the-counter health and wellness brand, and they're going to be talking about how they benefited from using addressable TV over this past year. And before we jump in, it's probably worth defining what exactly I mean when I say addressable TV, because I'll be saying it a lot over the next few slides. And in simple terms, it is really just the ability to overlay first, second, or third-party data to any TV content. And that's the general term that we use at Finecast because we think it encompasses the wider ecosystem. And it's a really exciting place to be in, really, because it's combining the power of TV and the precision of data, and that enables new opportunities for our advertisers. So I'll get into it. And firstly, I'd like to talk you through about just the current climate in this past year and how it's driving a huge surge in on-demand viewing. We all know on-demand is growing and that linear TV viewing is under pressure. But this year especially, it looks really different to last year, and that's because the pandemic has accelerated viewing trends. The broadcasters reported really compelling year-on-year increases in on-demand and live streaming over the past year. So for example, I don't know if you've all seen it, I have C4's biggest hit, It's a Sin. 19 million people binged the show on demand. We're also seeing a huge growth in live streaming, and that's especially around sport content. So people are now choosing to watch football, for example, via a live broadband connection. And these results show that TV, it's not declining as a whole, it's becoming more advanced and it's just being redefined. Traditional TV is, you probably think of the core broadcasters, and they're delivering huge audiences at scale. And they still are doing that. But today, we define TV as any long-form, professionally produced content that's predominantly served on the big screen, but also available through multiple devices and watched at your own time. So currently, the majority of the supply comes from broadcast on demand, which is great. But when we look into how quickly the market is evolving, there's a huge range of new opportunities and possibilities and new entrants into the market. So for example, in the broadcast space over here on the left that you can see, linear TV technologies are slowly moving towards becoming more addressable, and that will open up a huge supply opportunity in our marketplace. And then there's the ad-supported video on demand space. So we've seen a huge surge of viewing here too. For example, the likes of Roku and Rakuten in the UK. You might not recognize these names too well now, but they will become household names. We also have US tech giants in this area like YouTube, and they're producing more and more original content, and that content is intended for the big screen. Then over here on the right, we have our SVODs, which is our subscription-based video on demand players. And most of them aren't commercially, or all of them aren't commercially available yet to advertisers, apart from the likes of Now TV. But over time, you're going to see more of this space likely to follow suit and include elements of their models that are ad funded, which is really exciting. And then here on the bottom, we have eSport and gaming publishers, which you might not expect to see in this space, but the younger audiences are consuming this type of content on the big screen. And it's really about how viewers define TV. So we're going to see a huge growth in this area. And although, it can look quite scary and fragmented, that market, I think it's presented us with a really great opportunity. And I don't know if any of you have read it yet, but I just read the recent Enders report on TV advertising called Evolving the Model. And it really advises the industry to push towards more collaboration. So it's telling us to provide a more consistent user experience across targeting, reporting tools, and that's really where we add value at Finecast for our clients. Our aim is really just to simplify that landscape and offer advertisers a single access point to the benefit of the ecosystem. So whether that's to access unified bespoke audiences across a broad supply of premium inventory, deduplicated reach and frequency, or holistic reporting metrics. So that's us, and that's Addressable TV kind of in a nutshell. And how does this link to your media plans and your strategies if you're an advertiser? And the key message today is that Addressable TV can solve a number of different and really unique business challenges. Because I think, when I'm out talking to clients, there's a misconception about what addressability means. Maybe it just means super niche, some people think, or that the audiences are really small and granular, or it has a really high cost per thousand. But the reality is there's multiple use cases and a number of different cost-saving opportunities. So initially, Addressable TV was considered an incremental reach driver, and it's proven to be that, and it's really great for broad audiences. Some of our biggest advertisers use this to target light TV viewers. Segmentation also plays a big role. You can target groups of households that are most relevant to your brand based on things like lifestyle, life stage, spending habits, for example. And that makes TV a little bit more engaging for the consumer. And then going a step further, we've also worked with a number of auto brands looking to target groups of postcodes. Maybe it's to target a certain drive time of a certain dealership. And then also first-party audiences, we're seeing increased demand off the back of maybe entering a cookieless world. We've worked closely with brands recently looking to target existing customer groups or new customers using really rich first-party CRM data, because brands are really starting to look more into that. And lastly, we're also seeing increased demand from new to TV brands. And that's brands who are now, they can afford access to the highest profile shows on TV. So it's a really low cost of entry and a really good opportunity. Just a few more slides, and then I'll get into the discussion. But I really want to talk about how these perform, because we've really proven that addressability is great for brand metrics, but a lot of brands are actually more concerned about the journey to purchase and proving that we can drive short-term metrics. So we've collaborated with a few brands that I wanted to share with you. One is a new to TV alcohol brand, where we looked at a web conversion study, and we saw about a 244% uplift in sales and even more of an uplift in terms of web visits. We've also just finished a study which is using transactional data with Nectar for a pet food brand. We saw a £3.82 return on ad spend and an 18% uplift in total spend. So the client was really happy. But I think it's probably best to hear directly from a client and the advertiser that we have here today. Just a quick intro about Perrigo. We've worked with them for about a year. We've collaborated with Wavemaker to create a strategic test and learn partnership. Perrigo are a portfolio brand, so their business challenges and their KPIs really differ by product, but their end goal is to ultimately drive sales across their product base. So we're going to discuss a few of their business challenges that we help solve, and then hopefully we'll have time to hear what they're planning next. So you can stop sharing, and I'll kind of get into it by asking Sander a question to kick it off. Hi, Sander.
Hey.
So around the time you started working with us last year, can you just kind of give us a bit of a background into what the overarching challenge was that you identified on TV and kind of talk around that?
Sure. I think one of our key challenges that we have as a business is that our audiences are quite broad. It's not like a specific demographic we can target, but it's very need-based. For example, we have a brand like Nighthall, where we want to target people who are having trouble sleeping. But that's huge. That's very broad. And it's not like 35 to 55 and that's it. And when it comes to media, we really need to ensure we are reaching everybody in the market. And TV always worked well for us because we can buy quite broadly at a reasonable price. But we did recognize that VOD kind of became bigger and bigger and that it's very complementary to TV. So we've been running, prior to working with Wavemaker, some broadcaster direct activity, but comparing it to TV, it's often, at a higher price point. And that was one of the first challenges that we gave Wavemaker. How can we make our VOD more effective, basically?
I'm going to jump in there. So it's great. It's great working with Sander and Perrigo because they challenge us like this. And at Wavemaker, we believe in positively provoking growth for our clients. And that means asking questions and being challenged in this way and kind of having a what happens if attitude. And I think, Sander, you've talked about three things there. You've talked about the audience, you've talked about price, and you've talked about effectiveness. And I'm actually going to start at the end and then sort of work backwards, because I think ultimately effectiveness is key, right? Our media has to work, otherwise what's the point? So everything we do, every media that we buy needs to point towards growth for our clients. And one of our first provocations when we first started working together about a year ago was, how do we ruthlessly stay focused on effectiveness? There's lots of shiny new things out there. There's lots of ways you can advertise, especially with video, but what works? And through our research at Wavemaker, we've got lots of open video research. We have tech such as Maximize. We've really seen that in a video world, it's broadcast that drives the most effective advertiser reach. And another point you raised there was cost. And I completely get that. So a lot of the time when we're looking at TV versus VOD versus addressable, the latter two can look more expensive. But that's looking at it from an input stage. So if we're talking about effectiveness, we want to think about the output. So success for Perrigo is who's the audience? Are they seeing it? Are they then considering the brand? And ultimately, are they buying it? So we're always thinking about that. And from our research, and Sander, you mentioned it, and what was great, you brought with you so much research. And I love that you really test and learn. You really believe in that. So we could see from your historical research that the VOD worked really well. TV and VOD have the highest ROI of any of the media channels. So we knew it was effective, but we were thinking, is there something else we can do? Could we look at addressable to supercharge our VOD?
Okay, great. Thank you. So when we started working together, some of our first collaborations were on Nicotin and Nitol, so two of your products. And they were really kind of unique and interesting applications. Maybe can you talk a little bit around that and give a background into some of their specific challenges?
Should I talk about this?
Sure.
Go for it.
So Sander, you mentioned it. I mean, like many advertisers, there isn't a neat demographic that this fits in. It isn't. So when you've got hay fever, you have hay fever, right? I've got it. Me in Chelmsford. And it also might be somebody who's 77 years old up in Manchester. It isn't an age that unifies them, it's a need. And like many advertisers, it's that in-market intent. They're the ones that we want to target. So for our products, we work with Finecast, and it's looking at, well, how can we make some precise and more precision-based audiences? So Nicotin, for example, we're using YouGov statements about smoking, about people wanting to give up, because that's when you want to target them, when they're in that mindset of giving up. But I think, Robyn, you mentioned it in your presentation, there are so many different ways that we could build audiences. You've got life stage, lifestyle, you've got shopping data, MasterCard, Nectar, I could go on. And the beauty for us is with our portfolio of brands, each brand has its own custom bespoke audience that's built up. And that means we can put together a mass marketing campaign, but with targeted messaging at individual needs.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Robyn. Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing on the point of Eve, because I think Eve mentioned it, right? It's about efficient, effective media that we want to go after. And to Eve's point, we ran some insights where we've seen that the ROI of VOD is quite comparable to TV. So VOD and TV quite comparable. And I believe, and from the consumers that we asked the question to, the way they kind of look at VOD versus TV is quite comparable. The impact, the messaging that you have there, it has very similar benefits. And on top of that, we've seen from reach kind of curves that Eve showed that it's quite supportive from each other in terms of reaching audience, the incrementality and all of that. So it's very much supportive, and it makes it work harder TV and VOD really is like a nice duo that really makes the best out of each other. That's at least what we've seen. Nighthall has seen like really good growth in the market, is growing the category, and some of our other brand uplift studies that we did showed very strong kind of reactiveness, both in terms of like purchase intent, awareness, both increased considerably.
And can you share a little bit more about those results specifically, like maybe around the incremental reach? How much can you kind of share with us about that?
Yeah, I will not give you all the specific data, Robyn. I'll keep a bit for myself. But overall, like we ran some Kantar studies, for example, for one of our key categories, which showed us that there were incremental viewers to the VOD campaign. So we could look at the data for our specific audience. And for example, on there, we reached 6 percentage points of additional cover, which I believe is quite significant.
Great.
I think that's a key thing. Sorry, just to jump in really quickly. When you've got this world that changed quite hugely last year in the pandemic, you've got all these different ways of viewing video content. Discovery have got a new way of viewing it. Pluto from Viacom. Some people are only watching in this way. So if we don't operate in this space, if we're not using addressable means to target them, we'll never reach them.
Great. And I know that's, sales is really your key KPI, driving sales. So can you go a step further and maybe tell us a little bit more of the different strategies you use to kind of drive bottom of the funnel KPIs?
Yes.
And Sander? Yeah, so
Sure.
2 minutes left, so we'll...
No problem. I will run through that. Overall, I think first, the key thing is harnessing external triggers. For example, at the moment, the weather is, let's put it like that, not great. So for our allergy brands, that's not great neither. But like when pollen are high, we want to be there. We want to be there when the signals are out. So we want to reach people when it's the pollen are high again. Let's hope soon.
Just
great.
Jumping in, so we did that. I mean, that's the other good thing about addressable. It's about agility. You're not reaching everybody, so we did that we split the country into regions, and we turned areas on and off according to the pollen count being high. So you're being as close to that moment of a trigger in real life to your audience as possible, which works really, really well.
Okay, great, thanks. And we only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to go straight into kind of asking you now more around your digital only brands. I know you have a big portfolio of brands, so kind of what has Addressable TV allowed Perrigo to do that you weren't able to do previously?
I think the great benefit is that we can do much more test and learns on smaller brands, on more niche brands. As you said, Robyn, we have a huge portfolio. We have key brands that we really focus on, but sometimes, there are smaller brands who cannot afford really like that a big amount of TV spend that we have on there. So although economic data showed that TV has the strongest ROI, Finecast gave us a bit of an entry point into that TV that is a bit more affordable than the traditional TV advertising.
Okay, Eve, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I mean that's the beauty of working with a portfolio brand. You can take all the learnings from the big ones in the group, and we always capture those learnings. So when it allowed those niche products, as Sandra says, that they're so targeted to dip their toe into this broadcast world. So we had a point of view on phasing, weightings, etc. And we've seen really positive results from our brand lift studies. And it's something that we're going to test further this year with new brands who've never been in this broadcast space. So it's really exciting.
Cool. And lastly, just what's next really quickly? What are you interested? What can Addressable TV look to do for Perrigo in future?
As I said, we really are very much of a test and learn culture. We've seen, for example, some great results if we link TV with e-com sales. And that's definitely space we want to further explore.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any attribution, and I think for me, it'll be 3 things: test, test, and test. So our job is to help Perrigo and our clients stay pace of this ever-changing world. There's so many different players, opportunities, and for us, it's not being dazzled by the shiny new things, but as I said before, making sure everything we do is effective, it's pointing towards growth. So we're really excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining and for being so open with us. I think it was really interesting, and hopefully the audience got lots of helpful insights from that. So please reach out to us directly with any questions. We're all around. Finecast is here too in the virtual networking, and we're happy to chat more.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robyn.
Thank you.